The rain fell like memories, relentless, cold, and impossible to escape. Emma stood at the edge of the cemetery, her black umbrella offering little protection against the storm that mirrored the one inside her heart. 5 years had passed since she'd last seen James, 5 years since she'd walked away from the only person who had ever truly known her. Now she was back, but not for the reunion she had once imagined. "I never thought I'd return to say goodbye," she whispered, her words disappearing into the downpour. Her fingers trembled around the stem of a single white lily, his favorite. The weight of things left unsaid pressed against her chest with each labored breath. What Emma couldn't know was that across town, in a small apartment overlooking the harbor, James sat by his window watching the same rain cascade down the glass. The telegram announcing his father's passing lay crumpled on the floor beside him. He hadn't spoken to his father in nearly a decade, a rift caused by the same stubbornness that had cost him Emma. Two regrets, intertwined like vines, choking whatever joy had managed to survive in his heart. Their paths were destined to cross again in this small coastal town where they had both once found and lost love. Neither realized that sometimes the bravest thing isn't walking away, it's taking that single step back toward what frightens you most. The story of Emma and James isn't just about second chances. It's about the courage it takes to face our deepest regrets, to stand vulnerable in the pouring rain of our past mistakes, and to still believe that one kiss, one moment of absolute bravery, might change everything we thought was written in stone. When Emma stepped into the local cafe to escape the downpour, the last person she expected to see was the man who still appeared in her dreams. Their eyes met across the room, and 5 years of carefully constructed walls began to crumble with frightening speed. "Emma?" His voice hadn't changed, still that same mixture of gravel and warmth that used to make her feel like she'd found home. She considered running. It would be easier than this moment, this collision of past and present that threatened everything she thought she had resolved. But sometimes the hardest path is the only one worth taking. "Hello, James," she said, water dripping from her coat onto the worn wooden floor. "It's been a while." Neither could have predicted how that simple greeting would unravel the carefully constructed narratives they had built about their separation, or how the truth, when finally spoken aloud in whispered confessions over cooling cups of coffee, would feel both devastating and liberating. The cafe windows steamed up as the afternoon stretched into evening, their conversation moving from awkward politeness to raw honesty. Outside, the rain continued its steady rhythm, washing away the years of silence between them. "I never stopped thinking about you," James admitted, his fingers inches from hers on the table. "Not for a single day." Emma felt something break loose inside her chest, something she had kept tethered and controlled for too long. "I tried to," she said. "I tried so hard to forget." What followed was a journey neither had planned, a confrontation with the ghosts that had haunted them both. James's strained relationship with his now-deceased father. Emma's fear of abandonment that had made her leave before she could be left. The misunderstandings that had grown into impenetrable barriers. As lightning cracked across the sky, illuminating their faces in brief, electric moments, they began to understand that regret isn't just about the past. It's also about the courage to prevent future regrets, the bravery to reach across a cafe table and touch the hand of someone you once loved, despite the fear of rejection that threatens to swallow you whole. When they finally stepped outside, the rain had softened to a gentle mist. They stood beneath the awning, 5 years of distance between them and a lifetime of possibilities ahead. "I'm scared," Emma confessed, her voice barely audible above the dripping of water from the gutters. James nodded, understanding in his eyes. "Me too." Some acts of courage happen in grand gestures, running into burning buildings or standing before armies. Others happen in the smallest moments, when one heart decides to trust another despite every reason not to. Emma took a step forward, close enough to feel the warmth of him. "I don't want to regret anything else," she whispered. The kiss that followed wasn't perfect. It was hesitant and afraid, then desperate and hoping. It was brave in a way that only comes from knowing exactly what you stand to lose. It tasted of coffee and rain and the salt of unshed tears. It tasted like the beginning of a story neither had dared to imagine might still be written. But their journey was just beginning. The complexities of rebuilding what had been broken would test them in ways they couldn't foresee. Emma's career on the opposite coast. James's reluctance to leave the town where his father's memory now needed to be reconciled. The trust that had been shattered and required more than just attraction to repair. As night fell around them, they walked along the rain-slicked streets, their fingers intertwined but their futures still uncertain. What they did know was that regret had brought them back to this moment, and courage would determine what happened next. I've provided the beginning of this emotional story. This establishes the foundation for what could be developed into a much longer narrative about Emma and James working through their past regrets and finding courage to embrace a new future together, despite the obstacles they'll face.